The Senate Committee on Economic and Workforce Development is being called to order. Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Brown,
Here.
Gregory 21, Gregory 15, Lewis, Schnelting, Trent, Washington. We have a quorum.
First bill we'll be hearing today will be Senate Bill 1325. Senator Nicola, whenever you're ready, please begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Committee. Thank you for allowing me to present Senate Bill 1325. For the record, I'm Senator Joe Nicola, represent District 11, which is the northeast corner of Jackson County. This bill, Senate Bill 1325, is about protecting teenage workers, supporting small businesses, and ensuring Missouri's wage laws remain fair, reasonable, and sustainable for the long term. Missouri's minimum wage has increased rapidly. While many large corporations can absorb these increases, small businesses, especially family-owned businesses, often cannot. These are the businesses that employ teenagers for their very first job, teach them responsibility, punctuality, and the value of work. So Senate Bill 1325 recognizes that reality. This bill establishes a separate minimum wage standard for minor employees. Those are employees under the age of 18. Set at no less than $12.30 per hour or the federal minimum wage, whichever is higher. This ensures young workers are paid fairly, while also acknowledging that entry-level jobs are fundamentally different from full-time adult employment. For many young people, a part-time job is their first step into the workforce. These are entry-level positions that require training, supervision, patience from employers. Teens aren't being hired because they already have years of experience. They're hired to get experience. Teen jobs are often part-time jobs, seasonal jobs, and designed to provide experience, not to support a household. When wages are pushed too high, the unintended consequences is that businesses stop hiring teens altogether. Instead of gaining job skills, young people lose opportunities and small businesses lose a reliable workforce. Reports from my district alone have revealed approximately a 25% drop in teen employment as a result of the high minimum wage. We should be honest about this trade-off. Senate Bill 1325 also preserves Missouri's current minimum wage framework for adult workers, including the latest scheduled increase to $15 per hour, with the federal minimum wage acting as a backdrop if it rises higher. This bill does not roll back voter-approved wage levels for adults. What it does is provide flexibility and clarity where it matters most. For small businesses, restaurants, grocery stores, local shops, etc., labor is often the single largest expense. When wages rise too quickly, owners are forced to make hard choices, reduce hours, raise prices, automate jobs, like installing kiosks instead of having teens employed, or stop hiring inexperienced workers altogether. Teenagers are usually the first to be priced out. High minimum wage rates price teens out of jobs. When the minimum wage gets boosted, employers frequently cut down on hiring teens who typically fill lower priority positions. It's also important to keep Missouri in perspective. Our state's minimum wage is already $4.30 higher than many other Midwestern states. At $12.30 an hour, Missouri teens are already earning more than teens in surrounding states, and only $2.70 less than adults would earn at 15. That's a reasonable balance for level entry work. For instance, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Arkansas, Iowa, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, Wisconsin, and North Dakota do not have state minimum wages. They still go by the federal at $7.25. Arkansas is at $11, Minnesota $11.13, South Dakota $11.50, Michigan at $12.48, Nebraska at $13.50. Missouri and Illinois are the only two states in the Midwest that have a $15 minimum wage. Even at $12.30 an hour, our teenagers are still earning more than 13 of the 16 states listed. $12.30 an hour is not an unfair wage for an inexperienced teenager. This bill keeps them employed in legitimate on-the-books jobs where labor laws apply, training is provided, and safety is prioritized. When opportunities disappear in the legal economy, young people don't stop needing money, but their options become worse, not better. We should want our teenagers working in a safe environment, learning skills, earning a paycheck, and building a work ethic, not being shut out of the workforce entirely. In short, this bill does three things. It protects teen workers by preserving access to entry-level jobs. It supports small businesses that are struggling to keep up with rising costs, and it maintains Missouri's commitment to fair wages without imposing one-size-fits-all mandates. It's a reasonable adjustment, one that reflects how the real world works, and I respectfully ask for your support on Senate Bill 1325, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the sponsor? Senator Lewis?
Good morning.
Good morning.
You've had a busy morning.
I have.
Congratulations.
And it's going on.
So just a couple questions for you.
Sure.
Kind of similar to what we heard in the other committee with your bill. Are other states doing this?
Not that I'm aware of. I just, like I said in my presentation, there's quite a few states that don't even have a state around us. They don't even have a state minimum wage. They're still going by the 725 federal mandated minimum wage. There's a lot of teen workers that are already making over the 15. We have your district, my district, we're right on the border of Kansas. Kansas has a $7.25 minimum wage. Well, we have teenagers coming from Kansas over to Missouri because Missouri pays more. I'm sure the same problem's happening in Arkansas because Arkansas has a low minimum wage. But the market dictates, what employers need to pay. I've been a small business owner before. I've employed teenagers, and happy to pay them. But they've gained a lot of work experience, discipline, and those kinds of things. And I would raise their wages because I wanted to keep them. I had a couple of really good teenagers. So.
Okay. All right. So just to be clear,
Yeah.
there aren't other states that are that are lowering the minimum wage for minors.
No, there's not that I'm aware of. Just the states that I mentioned: Texas, Oklahoma,
That
Kansas,
don't have
Arkansas.
state. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that already-
totally get that.
They don't
'cause
even have one.
I'm just trying to get, because like the other bill you presented on, you said that like ALEC had model language,
Right.
so no model language. This is
Not that
something-
I'm aware of.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, who supported this? How did you think about this? It's kind of like,
Sure. I had a couple businesses. Matter of fact, I had a lady that was going to come and testify, and she wasn't able to make it today. A couple businesses reached out that employ quite a few teenagers and had some concerns where they're, every time the minimum wage goes up, obviously, when you have teenagers working in fast food restaurants, well, then our hamburgers go up and our french fries go up. And it's really difficult even for people that are making minimum wage to actually buy the products they're producing. And then there's quite a few jobs that are over the minimum wage anyway. So one of the businesses in particular said they're starting to install more kiosks to replace teen workers because of this minimum wage. So my whole thought on this is I want teenagers to get job experience. I don't want them to lose jobs, and I see the reverse of this that's happening with the higher minimum wage. So to help preserve teens, and I think some of the businesses had that same feeling. They want to help preserve teens working in the workforce, not a reason to cost. Because any business has to go by their balance sheet, right? What's their cost and for their product and for their labor.
okay, great. And I know it's difficult to come here, so I'd really love to hear from the small businesses in your community if they're willing to provide just like an email or something.
Oh, I think they would be, yeah.
Yeah, I'd
absolutely.
love to hear what
Yeah.
they have to say.
Absolutely. That'd be
Okay.
great.
Thanks, Senator.
You bet.
On that issue, I did pull up some information on that because I was kind of curious about that as well. It appears that a number of states do have a separate rate for minors, including Minnesota, Michigan, Arkansas, Florida, Iowa, Nebraska, New Hampshire, New Jersey, and Ohio. So hopefully that helps with a little background.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further questions? Seeing none, anyone that would like to testify in favor, please come forward.
Okay. Do I need to start over? Just start where I'm at. Okay. So we really think this would be helpful. I mean, myself, I worked for $1.50 an hour as a child. That's how old I am. And of course, we went up to $1.60, I think, by 79. But I was a farm. Of course, I was on a farm, sub-minimum wage. But without that job opportunity, I couldn't find employment at that time.
Thank you for that testimony. Do we have any questions for the witness? Seeing none. Next up in favor, please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Dan Shaw. I'm the Executive State Director for for Missouri Grocers and President of the Midwest Retail and Grocery Alliance. We appreciate this bill. We support it. Really, it gives us flexibility to hire more young people, give them the experience of working in a grocery store, customer service, learning how to interact with people. Gives us an opportunity to hire many more than we would before, and it gives them experience. And I can tell you right now, if someone comes in and pays attention, learns to pays attention to learning and training programs we put in place, they will not be making this teen wage very long. But it gives us an opportunity to hire more and for them to experience the workplace in a professional manner. With that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions to the witness? Seeing none. In favor?
Byron Keelan, President of Freedom Principle, and we would just like to go on record and concur with Senator Nicola's statement and just want to say that we support this bill. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions to the witness?
Oh, sorry.
Seeing none. Anyone else that would like to testify in favor? Anyone in opposition?
Good morning, members of the committee. For the record, Jay Cummel, President of the Missouri AFL-CIO. I'd like to go on record in opposition to the Senator's bill. We're against this for several reasons. One, that we do not like creating a two-tier pay system for young adults and adults. Last I checked, our teenagers that we're talking about still pay the same price for gas. In fact, they pay more for insurance as they're trying to get to that point where their insurance starts to come down. The comment was just made by this good senator here that oftentimes our younger folks struggle to pay for the things that they are producing in those employments. And so all we're actually going to do is make it even harder for them to buy those same products. And I am, for one, I'm kind of excited to hear that the citizens of Kansas are coming over for employment into the state of Missouri to pay taxes here in the state. And last I checked, we were trying to attract workers to Missouri, not do the opposite. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions to the witness? Senator Lewis?
Good morning.
Good morning, Senator.
I jotted that down. I mean, that is just so exciting to get workers from Kansas.
Love that.
I
We seem
love
to be
that.
losing things to Kansas
Yes,
lately, so I'd like
yes.
to hear that they're, sorry, I'm
No,
sorry.
I mean,
that was low.
it
I
is-
didn't like it either, okay? I'm sorry.
It's especially, I mean, for real, it's especially important where I am
It is.
because my
It is.
western border is Kansas.
Yeah.
So I jotted that, and I think that thrills me to get their tax dollars in the great state of Missouri.
Absolutely. I'm
Thank
with you. Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none.
Thank you, sir.
Next up, that would like to testify in opposition.
Good morning. My name is Drew Amade. I'm testifying on behalf of myself as an individual. I was a youth worker, my first job. Contrary to the way that a lot of youth workers get talked about, my first job was not like having a puppy. It wasn't something that taught me responsibility. My first job, I worked in a dry cleaner because when I was a teenager, my father died and my mother had crippling depression. And so my family depended on my paycheck to pay the bills. And so because of that experience, I think it is rather insulting to say that lowering my wages would have been in my best interest as a teen worker. I needed those wages. My family needed those wages. Lowering teen workers' wages will impact their families. Additionally, I'm in opposition to this bill because, like Mr. Hummel said, it creates a two-tier system, and I think that we should not be legislating age discrimination into our economy. And like all discrimination, it would impact all workers negatively. Teen workers would be harmed because they would be making less, and adults would be harmed because their wages would be suppressed. There'd be a strategic disadvantage when it comes to competing for these jobs. And so I think that that is just, in general, bad, and we should not be doing that. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought, but and finally, I think that this is a bad bill because, I think one of the real guiding principles of labor law should be the idea of equal pay for equal work. When I worked in the dry cleaner, I did not work any less hard than my peers. I was not a worse worker than my peers were, and I deserved the same wages that they were making. And I think that is true of youth workers in general. And so, yes, I am asking for you to not support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Do we have any questions for the witness? Seeing none. Anyone else who would like to testify in opposition? Anyone for informational purposes only? Seeing none, Senator, do you have any closing remarks?
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, committee, for listening to this bill, hearing this bill. I just wanted to make mention to one other thing. When we're losing jobs to teenagers in Kansas, that every job is one Missouri teen that is not able to have as well. And my comment on workers making $15 an hour and prices raging, that if restaurants, especially fast food restaurants and the like, weren't paying as high as a minimum wage, they wouldn't need to raise their prices quite as high. So thank you again, committee, for listening to this bill. I appreciate it.
This concludes the hearing for Senate Bill 1325. Next up, we'll be hearing Senate Bill 1279. Senator Coleman, please begin whenever you're ready.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. Thanks so much for hearing my bill. Mary Elizabeth Coleman, representing the 22nd Senatorial District. And I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about 529 accounts. So 529 accounts were started to help families save for college. We know that because inflation has hit higher education at a much higher rate than anything else, and that inflation has been out of control, that it's really getting more and more difficult to save your way into paying for college. So the current rules in Missouri allows for an $8,000 tax credit and up to $16,000 for married couples. And what my bill would do is it eliminates that current limit on it for contributions to bring us in line with the federal rules. Our federal rules allow up to your unified credit without, I guess, the annual deduction outside of the unified credit. So you would still have to pay gift taxes if somebody were to put into a 529 if it is over $19,000 or $38,000 for a married couple, unless they're doing something that's called a super fund, which allows up to $90,000 to be put into a 529 account at one time in order to seed that account. That is a tax planning strategy. My background is taxable estate planning, and so it's trying to make sure that usually that's grandparents that are leaving their money to their grandchildren while they're alive, and it can help them the most rather than waiting until after they've passed away to leave those inheritances. As you know, the rules around 529s have changed recently, allowing up to $10,000 and moving to $20,000 in 2026 for K through or pre-K through 12 education as well. So this is another way to help Missouri families be able to pay for and seek the education for their children. I think the fiscal note has some really important information about what this effect would be on the bottom line. And DOR has shared with us that right now on the first page you can see the average number of amount of contributions right now is below the current $8,000 threshold. The average is significantly below that. For married filing combined, the highest amount is about $58,000 or $5,800. So they're thinking that this is going to be a minimal effect and is probably more of an estate planning tool to try to help families really give inheritances to kids when they could use it the most. There are 13, basically about just 13 single, 4,900 roughly married filing jointly, head of household about 19 or 17, and widow or widowers about 18. So less than 5,000 taxpayers in the state are at that threshold amount. There's no telling whether they would give more if they had the opportunity to, but I just think whenever we get a chance to try to bring into alignment Missouri's laws with other federal laws, we should just go ahead and do so. So let's give families more tools to be able to pay for their kids' educations and get government out of the way. And I just, as a quick aside, I want to say Mizzou's average in-state tuition right now is approaching, I should have looked this up, approaching $25,000 with room and board a year for in-state students. The average for out-of-state public education right now is $44,000, and private is at $58,000. So it is getting increasingly hard for families to be able to pay for their kids' colleges, and we know that that is one of the best gifts that families are able to give to their kids to set them up without debt. So let's make it a little bit easier for them to do so.
Thank you, Senator. Do we have any questions? Seeing none, anyone that would like to testify in favor, please come forward. Just a reminder to everybody, be sure that you leave a witness form if you came here to testify on any of the bills.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jared Hankinson, Vice President of Government Affairs for the Missouri Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank Senator Coleman for bringing this legislation forward. The Missouri Chamber views 529 savings accounts as a workforce development, workforce incentive tool while employers are facing workforce crisis in all industries across the state of Missouri. We think it is of the utmost importance to create a pathway for more families to take an interest in their child's educational future. One additional note that I did want to offer some federal changes around qualifying educational programs in the 529 program. This is not just what some would consider the traditional education pathway of a four-year institution. These 529 savings can now be applied to apprenticeships and other what would commonly be referred to as non-traditional education pathways. So with that, again, appreciate the Senator for bringing this forward and happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Senator Lewis?
So does our bill include apprenticeships as well?
I think that the qualification of apprenticeships is something that's set at the federal level. I
So
don't
it
think that
just-
this bill specifically does it, but it, again, being in line with the federal regulation, it would qualify.
Okay, and then I was just curious, if we eliminate income tax, how is this impacted?
That's a great question that I would not be able to answer for you right now. Happy to do a little bit more digging and follow up with you
Yeah,
offline.
that'd be good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you for your
Thank you very
testimony.
much.
Anyone else that would like to testify in favor? Anyone that would like to testify in opposition? Anyone for informational purposes only? Seeing none. Senator, do you have any closing remarks?
No, thank you so much for the hearing.
This concludes the hearing for Senate Bill 1279. Next up, well, actually, before we go to the next bill, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to go into executive session. Do I have a second? We are in executive session. I now move that Senate Bill 931 be brought before the committee. Do I have a second? I have a second. This is Senator Crawford's bill we heard last week. SB931 modifies provisions relating to the mailing of certain tax information. I move that the committee vote do pass Senate Bill 931. Do I have a second? Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Brown,
Aye.
Gregory 21, Gregory 15, Lewis, Schnelting, Trent, Washington. By your vote of 4-0, you have voted to do pass Senate Bill 931.
I now make a motion that we exit executive session and return to our normal hearing. Do I have a second? Next bill we'll be hearing will be Senate Joint Resolution 95. Senator Schnelting, please begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Adam Schnelting, represent St. Charles County. Presenting SJR95. I do have a substitute that I'm presenting on, but it ends in 14C, and I believe you all should have a copy of it. Essentially, the purpose of this is I want to reimagine how we fund government operations. For generations, we've kind of thought like consumers rather than investors, and so I'm kind of proposing a monumental shift in how we view government. I want to kind of take the government from the taker column, put it into the caretaker column as it pertains to how we fund government. Compound interest is a very important, very powerful principle. If you were to invest, say, $100 a month from age 18 to age 65, during that 47-year period, you would have invested about $56,000. But over that same period, the growth or the capital appreciation on what you invested actually would land you about $1.3 million by the time you retired over that 47-year period. So it's a very powerful, compound growth is a very powerful thing, a principle that we should take advantage of. So what this legislation does, in short, is if approved by the voters, it would establish the Show Me Prosperity Fund in the state constitution. The goal is, it's essentially a sovereign wealth fund created with the end goal of eliminating state-imposed taxation by replacing the revenue derived from those taxes with the revenue earned from the sovereign wealth fund in the form of an annual distribution, whether that's 2%, 2.5%, 3%. We could have that discussion, and I'm certainly open to that. Most endowments are usually 3 to 4%, but as all investments, it takes time to grow. So the projections, this would be over several lifetimes. This would be something that we'd be doing for our grandkids, our great-grandkids, and so on. How the legislation works, I don't specify how much you has to be invested by the state. That's up to the appropriating authority of the legislature. But for the sake of an example, if Missouri has over $1 billion in unclaimed property that annually just sits on the books. If, say, for instance, the legislature decided to take a portion of that, this is our 250-year anniversary this year. Let's say we took $250 million and invested that one time into the S&P 500 through this fund that's created, the Sovereign Wealth Fund. Well, over multiple generations, because of compound interest, we would have a fund that is large enough that could potentially, the annual distributions from it could replace much of the state-imposed taxes much of the taxation that we derive from state-imposed taxes. So there's a constitutional prohibition. The amendment would prohibit the legislature from, again, levying those same taxes that we eliminate by drawing down those annual distributions. It also prohibits them from borrowing against the fund or encumbering the fund again. It has a provision to ensure that the state treasurer manages the fund, that the auditor reviews the fund consistently. But I don't want to bore you too much. This is kind of in the conceptual stage, so I'll just open it up for any questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for the Senator? Senator Gregory?
No, just a comment. Outstanding. This is exactly the type of stuff we need to be doing. And that money that's just sitting there doing nothing, it'll be earning for us. We don't have to do a thing. It's absolutely outstanding. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Any further questions? Senator Lewis?
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Great. You?
Still morning. I'm good. Thanks. So you said it's kind of conceptual. Do you know, are any other states doing this?
Yes and no. There are some states that have sovereign wealth funds that are kind of based on like their oil reserves, like Alaska, and Alabama has one. None of them, to my knowledge, and according to the research my office has done, none of them have the intent of replacing or eliminating their own state-imposed taxes. Instead, what they do is they just use it to offset a certain tax, or they appropriate it for something specific, but none with the goal of eventually eliminating state taxation.
Okay, thanks.
First up, they would like to testify in favor of this bill.
Byron Keelan, President of Freedom Principle, and we're here to endorse the Senate Joint Resolution 95, sponsored by Senator Adam Schnelting. This resolution proposes a constitutional amendment for the Show Me Prosperity Fund, which we believe is a forward-thinking sovereign wealth investment vehicle designed to build long-term prosperity and ultimately eliminate the state's oppressive tax burden. At its core, SJR95 aligns perfectly with our organization's principles, and that is government should not perpetually extract wealth from its citizens through income tax, sales tax, property taxes, and endless fees that punish productivity and drive families and businesses away. Instead, this bill would allow Missourians to harness its resources wisely, investing surplus revenues into a prudently managed, diversified fund that generates real returns, and over time, those earnings could fund essential services like education, roads, and public safety without continually to confiscate earnings from Missouri's families and job creators. This isn't about expanding government, it's about shrinking its responsibility. Lower taxes mean more money in the pockets of Missourians to spend, save, invest, and build generational wealth. It makes our state more competitive, attracting businesses, entrepreneurs, and families tired of fleeing high tax regimes elsewhere. We've seen successful models like the Alaska Permanent Fund deliver dividends and economic stability to residents. Missouri, with our abundant natural resources, strong manufacturing base, agriculture heritage, and strategic location, has even greater potential to lead in this conservative pro-growth approach. We believe in empowering citizens, not entrenching government dependency. This resolution represents a bold step forward towards real freedom, freedom of excessive taxation, freedom to prosper, and the freedom for future generations to inherit a Missouri that rewards hard work rather than penalizes it. And thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Do we have any questions? Seeing none. Anyone else that would like to testify in favor, please come forward. Anyone here to testify in opposition? Anyone for informational purposes only? Seeing none, Senator, do you have any closing remarks?
Mr. Chair, just I appreciate the time, and I look forward to working with the committee and trying to eventually eliminate state taxes for future generations. Again, we're not going to see it in our lifetime, but we need to be thinking about our grandkids and great-grandkids and so on. So thank you for having the hearing, Mr. Chair.
This now concludes the hearing for Senate Joint Resolution 95. Our last bill we will hear today will be Senate Bill 1325. Senator Brattin, whenever you're ready. I apologize, I misread. It's Senate Joint Resolution 68.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Senator Rick Brattin, serving the people of the 31st Senatorial District. Bringing forth before the committee SJR68. This would be a constitutional amendment that would prohibit unrealized gains taxation in the state of Missouri. Now, currently, unrealized gains are not taxed in the state of Missouri, but I know there's been a lot of mention federally. Several states have moved to try to start this sort of a backdoor wealth taxation on your investments, and unrealized gains are a form of taxation in Missouri and in the United States currently are only on realized gains, that things that are real, not things that are basically hypothetical that we see. And this is more of a preventative measure, a forward-thinking measure, ensuring that any form of taxation that we have in this state is only on those things that are realized, they're tangible, and they're actually liquid, not things that are pie in the sky and just money grabs to. I know many moves and attempts in the way that it's messaged that it's billionaire taxes, but in reality, every blue collar worker to every everywhere in between, people are investing in stocks and in 401ks and all these sorts of things. And we need to protect their investments and their retirements and their assets so they are able to retire and enjoy those, what does come to fruition and at that point can be taxed. But until then, we need to protect that from that sort of taxation. So again, this is a preventative measure. I do have just a little form here if you want to distribute to the committee of the states that have tried to move to start that type of taxation, as well as federal statutes where they've introduced to try to tax unrealized gains. So be happy to answer any questions of the committee.
Thank you, Senator. Do you have any questions? Senator Lewis.
Good morning, Senator.
Good morning.
So can you just summarize, like you said, states that have tried to do this? Are there any states that have passed the laws or just attempts out there?
So I haven't seen anything that has actually passed, but they have been introduced. I can get you links to where they are potentially in the process. But,
okay. So there's just movement.
There's just movement and talk, and when there is a building movement, I think we have to be forward thinking and realize what may potentially be inevitable. And I think we've just as our founders did. They didn't have to deal with infringements on liberties and all of that. They were forward thinking in their approach, and I think that's how we have to be as a legislature.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
and I
thank you.
appreciate the follow-up information.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Any further questions? Seeing none, anyone that'd like to testify in favor, please come forward.
Byron Keelan, Freedom Principle, and I do appreciate you lining up all three of these bills in one day. So, we're here in support of Joint Resolution 68. The resolution proposes a vital constitutional amendment, to prohibit the taxation of unrealized gains on assets in our state. Unrealized gains represent nothing more than hypothetical increases in asset value on paper only, without the actual cash in hand. Taxing these unrealized amounts would force hardworking Missouri families, small business owners, farmers, and retirees to pay taxes on wealth they haven't truly received. This is not just unfair, it's fundamentally un-American and contrary to the principles of limited government and economic freedom that our organization champions. And so I concur with what Senator Brattin was talking about. When you look at this, think of a farmer in rural Missouri who sees their land appreciate due to market conditions, but they haven't sold it. And under this, under any proposed tax on unrealized gains, they could face a crippling tax bill, potentially forcing them to sell off portions of their generational property to satisfy the government. So we believe this bill safeguards against the injustice. And by doing this, it reinforces Missouri as a beacon for economic liberty, attracting families, entrepreneurs, and investors who want to build wealth without fear of punitive government overreach. And thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Senator Lewis?
Good morning.
Morning.
This might be a little off topic. I know you provided testimony on all these bills and appreciated them going in a row. I'm just, based on your support for this bill with economic freedom, economic liberty, injustice, just curious, are you still in support of lower wages for folks doing the same job with the Senate Bill 1325?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anyone else here to testify in favor? Anyone in opposition? Informational purposes only. Seeing none, Senator, do you have any closing remarks?
Well, I'd just like to say that the people of the state of Missouri are at work today, so they all couldn't come down here to testify in support. So, but with that, I appreciate the hearing today, and thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
This now concludes the hearing for Senate Joint Resolution 68. With no further business coming before the committee, I now make a motion to adjourn. I have a second. We are adjourned.